Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's community call. So first, again, we'll go through the agenda. As usual, we'll start today's call with some Odyssey news, specifically on SOS Challenge, which we have an ongoing vote. And then we want to also discuss several upcoming Odyssey events. We would love to have your participation. And then for today's main agenda, we'll have, as Chen mentioned, we'll have both Chen and Subin Kim from Severance to give us a training on conducting comparative effectiveness study using the cohort method package. So with that, so if you want to go to the next slide, well, first, quickly introduce the SOS chat or remind everyone of the SOS challenge network studies. So very gratefully, we have 4 studies here, and at the right bottom corner that there is a vote or there is a form going on that we want you to vote for the studies and volunteer for the studies that of your interest. And then we're very glad have our APAC representation in the first study as well here. So feel free to go through, there are the presentations of each of the studies, so you can kind of learn more about what exactly the study is about or what status we are, and then please, and then go to the forms at the bottom to vote and then to check out more details.
So Jing, there's actually another slide that I made so that we can get the APAC participation on the survey, right?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
here you go. So
please, and then the deadline is only, thank you. Wow, that is a very specific timeline. Yep, it's very specific. So that's 20. Okay, so that's next Wednesday. So you still have almost a week to take your 1 minute and then go with the survey that has the link here. So if you could maybe all just also post this form, this link in our chat of this call, that would also be great. Yep. Thank you so much, everyone. We have 1 week. And
hey,
next,
Jing, before you go on, of course, because the first question was actually originated from APAC. So here I want to rally folks to vote for number 1. Okay. You can go vote for whatever you want, but we would prefer you voting for the one that Nicole and Chan submitted. So again, the call here is the call to participation is go vote for our study, the number 1 question.
And just to add to that, Moe, so there are four questions. I believe all of them are good and valid questions to do, but the first question came from the APAC community, and thus far we've gotten a lot of votes for that question. I think it's a very reasonable question that both Nicole's team and Chan's team have brought to the community, so it seems like a good thing to do. But we want to make sure that we have whoever wants to participate has already voted and expressed their interest. One of the very real possibilities that comes out of this is that we decide that we want to do that study, but if there's enough interest in the APAC community, we may choose to do it during the APAC hours. So there's no reason to have Chan and Nicole stay up to 2 a.m. every week. If we can have enough interest in the community, particularly in the APAC community, to participate. But if we find that the majority of people that want to participate are in the US or Europe, then of course we have to make the time zones accommodate for that. So please vote or submit your entry for this. And if you want to participate in the study that's being led by Nicole's team and Chan's team, vote for that one. And that may actually guide how we actually think about doing the Sisyphus challenge, which as it currently exists, there are 2 studies that are getting a lot of votes. One is Nicole and Chan's study, and one is a US study. And my current thinking is let's do one in the US and one in APAC hours. But I really want to make sure that if we do APAC hours, it's worthwhile for the whole APAC community. So I really want to hear from all of you. So please do vote for this as an option that you are interested in participating in.
And also I love that idea, Patrick. Thank you for taking Asia Pacific into consideration here, especially. I think it's a great learning experience for the entire APAC community. So for those that are in the call, please spread the word, put it on WeChat, put it on Kakao, put it on Line, Live, whatever app you guys want to put it on, to notify your friends to help us vote for this one. And if they want to participate, it's going to be a great learning experience for everybody to learn, especially if they're bringing the study to Asia Pacific time, right?
Yeah, but please note that one of the studies led by the researcher in the Central Asia. So yeah, we cannot exclude the Central Asia and the APAC community. So please remind that too.
Yep.
So, hi, Patrick, Song here. So since you're in the call, just a question on behalf of the community, right? So when you do the actual survey or the vote, I think you're allowed to select multiple studies,
Yep.
right? Yeah, you don't necessarily have to pick one. I think if you're interested in contributing or interested in multiple studies, you are able to do a multiple vote. It's not a select only one kind of thing, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's a check all that apply. So there are 4 clinical questions that have been identified as reasonable things for us to target. One is a question about fluoroquinolones and the risk of aortic aneurysm. That's the question from Nicole and Chan's team. And so that's one from APAC. There's a second question of psoriasis and the risk of venous thromboembolism associated with Skyrizi, which is becoming a very popular treatment for psoriasis. There's a third question about the characterizing the risk of PML associated with multiple sclerosis biologics. And then there's a fourth question associated with anti-VEGF treatments and the risk of end-stage renal disease with those treatments. So all of them are good questions. My hope is that all 4 questions actually move forward as network studies, but we really need to get a good, accurate tally of who wants to contribute to each of the 4 studies, because that will define which studies we highlight and whether or not we do, for example, one in the US and one in the APAC, and which ones are the profiled studies and which ones are the studies going on in the background. So if you are interested in any of the 4 or all the 4, please do vote on the forum, and I guess we can post that link in the chat so that you can all vote to contribute to which study you're interested in.
Finally,
Thanks,
I want to say, just because I want to make sure everybody understands, participating in these studies does not mean you have to have data. Okay. There are many other ways to participate in these studies, and it also doesn't mean that you have to know how to run a study either. Okay. That's why those that are leading this will be helping people. A lot of this may be helping things with like literature review, looking at something else to review, helping write packages. So there's a lot of work that goes on when conducting these type of studies. So it doesn't always mean you have to have data to contribute.
Yeah, even if you want to just participate and learn, well, I still want you to vote to say, I want to do this study, because then we can know where you want to contribute. Even if your contribution is learning and participating, then that's totally okay.
All right. Thank you so much for for the additional information. And again, please go there and please check out the form, and then you can vote from there. Thank you. So next, we'll quickly go through the upcoming OHDSI events. So first of all, we will have the European Symposium on July the 1st, which is almost 3.5 months away. And then we have everything listed here is in the Netherlands, and also the registrations are open. The abstract submissions are open. Please go visit the website, and if you're interested, and then the submission will be due in another month and a half. And next, we'll have our APAC Symposium. Quick news, so it will be actually, it will be a bit earlier this year. It will be July 13th to 14th, and I'll be hosting Nicole. We'll have Nicole hosting that in Sydney, Australia. And now we're finalizing on the registration. So hopefully we'll be have that ready, and of course we'll let everyone know once the registration is open, so we can start the registration. And then we have this abstract submission that is now open. So feel free to submit your abstract through the form link here. Right, so stay tuned. We'll have more updates as we go along with the preparation and planning. Thank you so much. So that's all we have for the OHDSI news session. So next, we're very glad to have Chen and Subin from Severance Hospital to introduce or give us the training on the conducting comparative effectiveness study using cohort method package. So first, we'll give everyone a quick intro of our presenters today. So here we have Chen, our friend here, that is assistant professor from Yonsei University, and also in Severance Hospital. So I know, Chen, you have been here forever, and we appreciate your, everything you have done. I feel like this bio is too short to capture everything, but again, like, we're so happy to have you in the OHDSI APAC community, and it has been such a pleasure working with you. And thank you for presenting today. And next we have Subin Kim, who is a research assistant under Professor Chen, and then also in Yonsei University College of Medicine. So her work interest has been within the natural language processing, and also, of course, using the real world data and OMAP for the research questions. So without further ado, we'll have both Chen and Subin to give us the training today.
Oh, yeah, I'll share my slide. Oh,
yeah, sure. Okay, I was just gonna ask, do you want me to slide, or do you want to share? Okay, let me stop sharing.
Thanks. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Subin Kim from Yonsei University in South Korea. Today I'm going to talk about how to conduct comparative effectiveness study using CohortMethod package. First, I'll briefly talk about population level estimation in observational studies and how to implement the study using Atlas and R. Also, I'll talk about exploring the results from CohortMethod package. Population level estimation is the estimation of average causal effects of exposures. There are two different estimation tasks. First is direct effect estimation, estimates the effect of an exposure on the outcome compared to no exposure. And comparative effect estimation estimates the effect of an exposure compared to another exposure called comparator. Today, we'll focus on comparative effects estimation. In our city, the treatments are assigned randomly. So random allocation of treatment is a powerful tool that it could minimize the bias like confounding bias or selection bias. So the patients in each treatment group are not different and comparable. Thus, under randomization, association does imply causation. Although there might be random error, but it can be reduced by increasing the sample size. However, in reality, the treatments are not assigned randomly, so the internal validity of observational studies can be affected by biases like confounding bias, selection bias, and measurement bias. As a result, the treatment and comparator groups may be systematically different and not be directly comparable. To adjust the differences between treatment and comparator groups, we can use propensity score. Propensity score is the probability of belonging to the target cohort given the baseline covariates. Using propensity score, we can adjust the differences between two groups by matching, stratification, or inverse probability of treatment weighting. Traditionally, logistic regression was widely used to predict the propensity score. Cohort method is our package for performing individual cohort study in OHDSI network. To fit in the propensity score model, cohort method package uses the large-scale regularized logistic regression. All covariates, baseline covariates like demographics, previous diagnosis, and history of drug are included in the model. In cohort method, we can implement propensity score, matching, stratification, and IPTW. Also, the results from cohort method package help to evaluate the study design. I'll show the results from cohort method later. Further information about cohort method can be found in OHDSI GitHub, and you can download the package in this site. Today, as a demo, we will replicate OHDSI network study published in Cardiovascular Diabetology in 2012 too. 10 secondary or tertiary hospitals in Korea included, and this study shows the power of OHDSI network. In this article, the main question is that what is the risk of new onset diabetes mellitus in Pivastatin compared to atorvastatin or rosuvastatin? First, we need to define study design for comparative cohort study. We need to select the target and comparative exposures and outcome of interest. Further, we need to set time and risk, the amount of time to consider the risk of the outcome. And finally, we need to decide which model to use to estimate the effect. You can use logistic regression or Cox regression to estimate the effect of exposure on outcome. And if the dependent variable is the number of occurrences of outcome, you can use Poisson regression. In this study, the target cohort was defined as patients who aged greater or equal to 18 and were first exposed to pitavastatin without diabetes history. And comparator cohort was patients who aged greater or equal to 18 and were first exposed to atorvastatin or rosuvastatin without diabetes history. The outcome was new onset diabetes mellitus. Time and risk was from 180 days after cohort start date to 180 days after cohort end date. The Cox regression with 1-to-2 matching was used in this study. In more details about cohort definition, the patients who aged greater or equal to 18 and were first prescribed pitavastatin for more than 180 consecutive days were entered the cohort. The index date is the first prescription of pitavastatin. Patients who met at least one of the following criteria at any time before and within 180 days after the index date were excluded. First one is exposure of atorvastatin, rosuvastatin, or any other statin, and to ensure that the outcome is new onset, history of diagnosis of diabetes disorder, or exposure to any oral hypoglycemic agent, or patient who had greater or equal to 5.7% of hemoglobin A1C level were excluded. The cohort exit was defined as end of continuous drug exposure or the drug exposure of another statin. The persistence window was defined as maximum of 90 days. This means that the two exposed periods within 90 days were considered as one continuous exposed period. And for comparator cohort, inclusion or exclusion criteria are same as target cohort, except just change pitavastatin to atorvastatin or rosuvastatin. Patients who were first prescribed atorvastatin or rosuvastatin for more than 180 consecutive days and who aged greater or equal to 18 at the start of drug era were entered the cohort. In the target cohort, the history of drug exposure of atorvastatin or rosuvastatin were excluded, but in here, the history of drug exposure of pitavastatin were excluded. Another exclusion criteria were same as target. The cohort exit was defined as end of continuous drug exposure or the drug exposure of another statin, and the persistence window was a maximum of 90 days. The outcome was new onset diabetes mellitus. In this study, diabetes mellitus was defined as condition occurrence of diabetes or drug exposure of any oral hypoglycemic agent or greater or equal to 6.5 HbA1c level. Yeah, if you finish to define cohort, then you can select the study setting using the estimation tab in Atlas. So in comparison setting, you need to add the target, comparator, and outcome course you defined, and also negative control outcomes. You can add multiple outcomes that you're interested in here. Negative controls are outcomes that are not considered to be related to exposure. So, for example, the Pivastatin, atorvastatin, or rosuvastatin does not relate with occurrence of ingrowing nails. So, ingrowing nail can be a negative control in our study. We can use negative control to evaluate whether systemic errors like confounding bias exist in the study. And in covariate selection, you must exclude the target and comparator treatment. If you don't exclude them, you can't match the two courses as they did not use each other before the index date. And also in here, pitavastatin, atorvastatin, and rosuvastatin were excluded as baseline covariates. After closing the comparison dialog, first you can set the study population in analysis setting. In here, you can restrict the study population to the period when both exposures are present in the data. And the questions in the red box can be defined in cohort definition in advance. If you define the inclusion or exclusion criteria like first time in history or continuous observation period, you don't have to change these options in this step. Also, you can determine whether you will remove patients that are in both the target and comparator cohort or not. There are three options: keep all, keep first, and remove all. If you select the first one, you can keep the patients in both cohort. And if you select keep first, you can keep the patients in the first cohort. And if you select the last option, you can remove the patients in both target and comparator cohort. Next is covariate setting. In here, you can include or exclude or change default covariate setting, which will be used in propensity score model. The concepts that excluded in comparison settings are also excluded in the propensity score model. And then you can set the time at risk. In here, 180 days from cohort start date and 180 days from cohort end date was defined as time at risk for outcome new onset diabetes mellitus. And in this dialog, you can set the propensity score adjustment. You can select matching or stratification, which you will use. And in red box, if you select one, this means that you will use one-to-one matching, and more than one means you will use one-to-many matching. And finally, you can set about outcome model you will use. You can select logistic regression, Poisson regression, or Cox regression. And in here, if you use one-to-many matching or stratification, you should use conditional regression. If you close the analysis setting, then you can name the package and click download button to download the study package in utilities tab. If the download finished, you can load the study package after unzip and launch the R project file. You can match the dependencies using restore function in ramp package. After you matching the dependencies, and then if you click the install button, then you can build your own study package. After loading the code to run and R script in extras folder, you have to set the directory of output folder and database connection details and name of schema to run the code. Finally, after you run the execute function, you can get results of CohortMethod package. The results can be found in the alpha folder that you set. The results from CohortMethod package help to evaluate your study design. First, you can launch the Shiny application with blind mode using Launch Evidence Explorer function. Then you can see that the estimated hazard ratio corresponding 95% confidence interval and p-value were blinded, and we cannot see the result in blind mode. Before seeing the estimated hazard ratio, we need to check the propensity score distribution and covariate balance. We need to assess if these two groups are comparable. by propensity score distribution, you can assess initial comparability of cohorts. As I mentioned, you can use propensity score matching or stratification to make these cohorts comparable, but the distribution of two cohorts need to be rather similar before adjusting the two groups. If the two cohorts are not similar, the effect of exposure on outcome might be due to the differences in baseline characteristics of two groups. So the result might be distorted. And by covariate balance, you can evaluate whether adjustments has made the cohorts comparable. The standardized mean differences less than 0.1 is recommended, and it means well balanced. In the plot, you can see that the standardized difference of all covariates are less than 0.1. If you finish to assess if two treatment groups are comparable by propensity score distribution and covariate balance, then you can launch the Shiny application with blind mode false. Then you can see the estimated hazard ratio, confidence interval, and p-value. In here, the risk of Pivastatin on new onset diabetes was not significantly different compared with atorvastatin or rosuvastatin. In the bottom of the table, you can see the number of patients, follow-up time, number of outcome events, and incident rate of each course after propensity score adjustment. In addition, you can see how your study population was constructed by attrition table. At the top of the attrition table, you can see the number of patients in two groups selected by Atlas. And you can also see the exclusion criteria and the number of patients who excluded. At the bottom of the table shows the final study population that will go into your outcome model. You can also see the baseline characteristics of your study population before and after adjusting cohorts. The standardized mean differences of each covariate can show the comparability of two cohorts. And here you can check which covariates were included and coefficients of each covariates in fitted propensity model. And lastly, you can see the Kaplan-Meier plot to compare the cumulative incidence of outcome in two cohorts. Yeah, this is the end of my slides. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Subin. All right, so I was just wondering, any questions, comments from the audience?
Hi, Subin Song here. So I was just wondering, in your data, the results were not significantly different among the two different groups. I was just wondering what the original paper you tried to replicate reported. Was there a significant difference between the two groups?
Yeah, in original paper, the Pivastatin had a decreased effect of Pivastatin had a decreased risk of new onset of diabetes mellitus compared to atorvastatin or rosuvastatin. Or maybe
Okay.
in our database, the sample of study population, the number of study population was small than original paper. So, yeah, the result may different. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for answering the question.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, I'm Sujong from Yonsei University. Currently, I'm trying to use CDM to do some analysis, but I'm really bad at statistics and everything like this. And Chan just left the message that before checking the HR and p-value, we should check the diagnostics first. Does it mean diagnostics by covariates between the groups?
Um, Yeah,
or
I think
is he
that-
referring to cohort diagnostics?
Yeah,
like I also
right.
had the same question. Yeah.
Yeah, right. He said, I think that he said that you must implement the cohort diagnostic package, and also if you want to compare the two cohorts, you also have to implement the cohort method package and diagnosis that your study design is not distorted.
Okay, I understood. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Subin. So I think that's, if you have any other questions afterwards, feel free to contact Jane and Subin after the call today. So with that, I think Patrick also have something to share with everyone. So Patrick, I think you have the floor. Hi, Patrick.
He dropped, I think.
Oh, okay. I think he okay, let me pin him really quick. Okay. So all right, I think we can do email updates if needed. I think when Patrick is back.
It must have probably been about the SOS challenge, which, you know, all of us kind of talked about at the beginning. So with that, he's probably, since he's already talked about it, I think that's why he might have dropped.
Okay. Sounds good.
I have one last question for Subin. So Subin, when you replicated the study, how long did it take for you to replicate it? I'm just wondering, like, is it something that you did in a few hours, or did it take you several days, or longer, right? Whichever. Yeah.
It takes maybe 5 hours to replicate this study because I didn't subgroup analysis in this presentation, so it may not there. Yeah.
So I guess that's another like benefit of like OMOP, right? Like we can do things like this, replicate things like this really quickly, right? Of course, like if you want to pay attention to detail, you really need to like look into every single little detail. But like of a high level replication like this, I think is like if it takes a few hours, I think everybody can try it out with their data, right? If they have it. So I guess for the community, if you want to like see what the results look like in your data, maybe you can just follow along with what Subin prepared today and like try it out in your own data and see how the results look like. Yeah. Thanks, Subin.
Thanks.
Oh, we have another question in the floor.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Oh, yes. So I just have one question. I just you mentioned this treatment, the duration for medication. I think it's 180 days, right? For this medication treatment. So how you track the drug treatment duration? You know, it's
can you say one more time, please?
Oh, yes. So I think for this the drug treatment, they have the duration from start date to end date. Yeah, I think you mentioned it's 180 days, right, for drug treatment. So how you track the duration for the drug treatment? Because from my experience, it's very hard to find the patient how long they take the medications.
Yeah, the duration of treatment is very long, like 180 consecutive days, but they they define the maximum gap of persistence window as maximum of 90 days, so it can track the duration of treatments.
So Gongliang, to give you a little bit more feedback on your question, right? So in your data, there will probably be a prescription of a drug, and based on the number of days the drug has been prescribed, there will be a start and an end date. And what Subin just said is the authors allowed a gap of 90 days in between those drug records. So even if a patient, for example, got a drug prescription for 30 days and then came back after 60 days or 90 days even for his next or her next prescription, that will be considered a same consecutive or a continuous drug exposure. Is that correct, Subin?
Yeah, right. Thanks.
Yeah. So did that answer your question, Gongliang?
Oh yes, because the medication start and date is very difficult to find from these medical records.
Right.
See, that's something that's required in the OMOP CDM. You have to have a drug start and a drug end date, because then that's how we create drug errors. So those within the OMOP, if you're running an OMOP database, those are required fields that you have to fill out. And sometimes you have to calculate those. And those rules are based on either you working with your data or people who understands medicine, right? Because when you get prescriptions, like, I mean, even I don't know a lot about prescriptions, right? Because I'm not a doctor. But you can kind of, sometimes it's derived from you having to look at the instructions, and it says, 3 times a day, and you have 90 pills, then we calculate that it's a 30-day prescription. So that information is already captured in the OMOP CDM when you transform it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, excuse me, Subin. May I ask you a question? I think we met already in the APAC Symposium in Taiwan. I'm Mr. Fu from Team U, and I found that your session, your training session is very interesting. And I think that is it possible you can share that slide to us so we can replicate your result and your analysis to our database? Because we also have interested in kinds of the drug exposure to the TDM patients also.
So Subin has already shared her slides. I will be uploading. So all slides for community calls are available in the SharePoint. So I will also post in this chat where you can find the slides so that you can see it after the call.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Just one more question for Subin. When you run this cohort method, the R package, do you need to connect to the OMAP web API?
You need to connect with your CDM database. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just noticed you can connect to this SQL Server, right? Do you need to connect to use a web API?
No, no, we don't need to connect with a web API to implement the skeleton package of comparative effectiveness study.
Okay.
So Gongliang, web API is actually very related to Atlas. It's not really relevant to executing R packages against your CDM database. So the connection details that Subin shared in her R script example slide is a connection to your database specifically, not the web API.
Okay, good. Got you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the questions. I think that's all we have for today. And if you have additional questions, feel free to contact us or contact Subin directly if anything related to the training today. All right, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Subin.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, morning.
Oh,
Morning.
we have a
What's up?
morning. Oh, hey. Oh, it's, okay. It might be I think he unraised his hand. All good.
Maybe
All
he
right.
tried to react, right? Yeah.
He tried to, yeah. Sounds good. Cool. Thank you. Thank you,
Bye,
Subin,
guys.
again. Bye.